Beneath the snow-mound mountains, fate began to turn in silence. While one man stepped into an ancient vault in search of salvation, unseen eyes were already moving, schemes layered upon schemes. The dead stirred, the living hunted, and threads woven over 10 long years finally tightened. Unaware of the storm converging upon him, Han Li crossed the threshold, and with that single step, the balance between hunter and prey quietly shattered. If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep creating. Han Li brought the burly man into an inconspicuous room within the building and gently laid him upon the floor. A layer of deep blue frost clung to the man's body, and his eyes remained wide open, frozen in a lingering expression of sheer terror. With a flick of his wrist, a slender silver needle materialized between Han Li's fingers. He bent down and drove the needle into the man's head several times in rapid succession. The large man shuddered violently, his body convulsing once, before going completely limp. Han Li formed a hand seal, his lips moving as he murmured a low incantation. Spell seals flashed forth and struck the man's body one after another. Instantly the frost coating him melted away, dispersing into nothingness. The man slowly sat upright, his gaze vacant and unfocused. He crossed his legs stiffly and remained motionless like a puppet whose strings had been pulled taut. A faint azure glow spread across Han Li's face as he swept his sleeve through the air. Several spell flags of varying colors flew out and embedded themselves around the two of them, forming a key concealing spell formation. Once the formation activated, Han Li's figure blurred and reappeared silently behind the large man. Raising one hand, he pressed his palm against the crown of the man's head. Brilliant light erupted from Han Li's body, swallowing the large man whole. "What is your name, and what position do you hold within the Kong clan?" Han Li's voice rang out from within the light, cold, detached, devoid of emotion. The man replied dully, as if his soul had been hollowed out. "My name is Kongdo. I am the Chief of External Affairs. When did the Kong clan take control of Falcon Cloud Village? Where did the original residents go? 7 years ago. All of them were relocated to a town called Snowriver. What is the purpose of the Kong clan's Grand Assembly?" That is, question after question followed, and before long Han Li had extracted nearly all the information he sought. Finally he withdrew his hand. The light faded, and the large man immediately collapsed onto the floor. Han Li retrieved a medicinal pill and forced it into the man's mouth. Then, with practiced precision, he struck the man's acupoints one by one using the silver needle. After a short while, Han Li straightened and muttered to himself, with the worry-free needle, his recent memories should be sealed away. He won't stir up trouble anytime soon. What a pity. If my cultivation were higher, I could have used the Dream Tier technique and spared myself all this effort. With a shake of his hand, Han Li recalled the spell flags and exited the building. Without hesitation, he headed straight for the village entrance, having completely lost interest in continuing to participate in the Grand Assembly. Quite a few cultivators were already on their way out, so Han Li's departure did not draw the slightest attention from the guards. Wrapped in a streak of azure light, he sped toward the small town mentioned earlier. The town lay not far from the snow-mound mountains. Before long, Snowriver town appeared faintly on the horizon. Though roughly 4 times larger than Falcon Cloud Village, it scarcely deserved to be called a town. By the time Han Li arrived, night had already fallen and the streets were nearly deserted. His arrival passed unnoticed. As he walked through the town, Han Li slowly extended his spiritual sense, remaining vigilant for any hidden nascent soul cultivators. Just as he expected, there were cultivators present, but most were low-level. The strongest among them was a lone core formation cultivator concealed within a courtyard in the southwestern corner of the town. Han Li's spiritual sense swept silently across the area, yet not a single cultivator detected him. Once he confirmed there was no immediate threat, Han Li suppressed his aura and continued down the street, his gaze casually drifting to either side as though searching for something. Soon he arrived at a broad intersection, the apparent heart of the town. His eyes narrowed as they fell upon the signboard of an inn, and he came to a halt. The signboard was a meter long, engraved with silver characters, reading "Pleasant Arrival." It was a common inn name throughout Great Jin. There were likely hundreds, if not thousands, bearing the same title. Han Li's attention, however, lingered on a small teapot emblem etched into the corner of the sign. After scrutinizing it briefly, he drew in a slow breath and looked up at the modest inn. Seeing no one nearby, his figure blurred. In a flicker of pale yellow light, he passed straight through the inn's door, as if it were nothing more than mist. Inside the main hall was engulfed in darkness and silence. It was unclear whether there were guests inside, or if all had already retired for the night. After a moment's thought, Han Li closed his eyes and released his spiritual sense, allowing the image of the inn to fill his mind. Then, like a passing breeze, he vanished into the shadows. The owner of the Pleasant Arrival Inn was a shriveled man in his 50s, one of the wealthiest mortals in the town. After a long day, he had fallen into deep sleep, holding the young concubine he had married earlier that year. Suddenly, an icy, bone-chilling wind swept past him. The old man jolted awake, his eyes flying open as cold sweat drenched his body. In the pitch-black room, a figure stood beside his bed, staring down at him with cold, gleaming eyes. Just as he was about to shout, a flash of silver streaked through the air. His throat went numb and his voice died instantly. "Lower your voice," a calm yet chilling tone said. "There are no cultivators in this inn, but I would rather not alert anyone. I only wish to ask you about this item." The figure raised his hand. A silver key shimmered into view. At the sight of it, the old man's body trembled before relaxing completely. A trace of joy surfaced on his face. The figure was, of course, Han Li. The old man scrambled out of bed and gestured urgently, trying to speak, but no sound emerged. Han Li smiled faintly and flicked his fingers, withdrawing the silver needle from the man's throat. The old man coughed several times before finally regaining his voice. May I examine the silver key?" After a brief pause, Han Li handed it over. The old man studied the key for a long time before returning it with both hands. Then, wearing an expression of deep reverence, he bowed and asked, "Are you the great young master?" "You've already seen the key," Han Li replied calmly. "Is there an issue?" "None at all. Since the young master possesses the genuine key, your identity is beyond doubt." "But—" The old man glanced at the young woman sleeping behind him. Han Li blinked. "Do not worry. I placed her under a spell before waking you. No matter how loudly you shout, she will hear nothing." "That is a relief," the old man said sincerely. "The clan master hasn't contacted me in many years. As a mere mortal, I did not know what had transpired. I dared not inquire, fearing I would draw the attention of other cultivators. Now that the young master has come with the silver key, my heart can finally rest. Had the clan head not mentioned that you altered your appearance, I would never have dared to believe it." "Something has indeed happened to the Feng clan," Han Li said bluntly. "I must open the secret reserves and retrieve several items. Aside from the clan head, no one knows its location. He should have left a backup map with you." "Hand it over." "Yes," the old man replied without hesitation. "Since you possess the key, you are fully qualified to open the reserve. Please wait a moment." "Young master." He hurriedly dressed and led Han Li into the inn's rear courtyard. Taking up an iron hoe, the old man dug at an unremarkable corner of the courtyard. Then, abandoning the tool, he searched through the soil with his bare hands until he uncovered an ordinary-looking stone brick. By then, sweat drenched his entire body. Handing the brick to Han Li, he said, "The location of the secret reserve is sealed within. There is a restriction I cannot undo, but the young master surely can." "Naturally." Han Li examined the brick, briefly nodding in satisfaction. His expression then turned solemn. "Now that I have this, you must not remain here. Leave at once. Travel far and conceal your identity." The old man's face darkened. Then, something truly has happened to the Feng clan. He took a deep breath. "Rest assured, young master. I will depart within a few days. I will not allow any information about you to leak." Han Li stored the stone brick away. Seeing the old man's dejected expression, his heart softened slightly. With a flip of his hand, he produced a small azure bottle and passed it over. You understand the situation. Since you remained loyal to the Feng clan all these years, take these medicinal pills. Though you are immortal, they will strengthen your body and extend your lifespan. The old man froze for a moment before joy flooded his face. Many thanks for your generosity, young master. Han Li waved his hand indifferently. That is all. Take care. In a flash of azure light, he vanished from the inn without leaving a trace. The old man stood there in a daze. Only after a long while did he confirm Han Li had truly departed. Lowering his head, he stared at the medicine bottle in silence, then let out a long, weary sigh. After leaving the inn, Han Li immediately flew out of Snowriver town and headed toward a desolate mountain range. Upon landing, he flipped his palm, summoning an azure stone brick into his hand. With the brick in hand, Han Li examined it more closely. He swept his other hand across its surface, his fingertips glowing with faint azure light. As they brushed past, ripples of white radiance spread across the brick like waves upon still water. A smile tugged at the corner of his lips, and he nodded in satisfaction. Everything matched what Feng Yue had told him. The brick was in truth a storage pouch in disguise, one that could only be opened through a specific incantation. Any attempt to force it open would cause all of its contents to be reduced to ashes. Han Li had obtained the incantation from Feng Yue before his death. Now he softly recited it, expelling a sphere of azure light from his mouth. Talismanic characters roamed restlessly within the light as it struck the brick and wrapped around it. Moments later, Han Li formed a hand seal with one hand and swiftly pressed his finger against each corner of the brick in succession. With a soft bang, a pitch-black hole appeared on its surface. He did not recklessly insert his hand. Instead, he slapped the bottom of the brick. It shuddered with a flash of light, and two items flew out from the opening, a jade slip several inches long and a tightly bound stack of documents. Han Li casually caught them both with one hand. After storing the brick away, he ignored the documents entirely and immersed his spiritual sense into the jade slip. Before long, his expression twisted, darkening noticeably. Sensing his reaction, Monarch Soul Divergence asked, "What is it? Could it be that the jade slip doesn't contain the location of the Feng clan's secret cave?" "It does," Han Li replied, letting out a long breath. "It even details the exact location." He withdrew his spiritual sense and frowned deeply. "Then why the long face?" Monarch Soul Divergence asked. Could it be the cave lies somewhere dangerous? As an eccentric existence who had lived for nearly 10,000 years, his intuition was sharp. Han Li sighed helplessly. "There's a good chance I'll run into trouble. The secret cave is located deep within the Snowmound Mountains. Why would the Feng clan establish it there?" Monarch Soul Divergence exclaimed in disbelief. Did they not know that something strange exists within those mountains, and that cultivators often disappear there? "Who can say?" Han Li replied with a bitter smile. Perhaps the Feng clan ancestor believed that the more dangerous a place was, the safer it would ultimately be. Monarch Soul Divergence spoke lazily. "Since they used this secret cave repeatedly, it likely isn't too dangerous. There's no need to overthink it." "I hope so. Now that I have the map, I can't turn back simply because of some unknown danger. If everything goes smoothly, I should arrive there within a day." With that, Han Li put away the jade slip and picked up the stack of documents. He flipped through them briefly before letting out a startled cry. "These are deeds to the Feng clan's properties in the mortal world," he said in surprise. "They practically own the most land in this entire region. What's so strange about that?" Monarch Soul Divergence replied. "The noble clans of Great Jin operate very differently from the immortal clans of the Heavenly South. Interfering in mortal affairs is considered perfectly normal here. It's not shameful to associate with powerful officials or wealthy families. Even wandering cultivators often seek them out for assistance. Great Jin spans an immense territory, and mortals live here in far greater numbers than in the Heavenly South. As a result, there are fewer desolate regions, and spirit medicines and spirit stones often end up in mortal hands. This is entirely different from the heavenly south, where mortals occupy far less land and vast wilderness remains untouched. That is why cultivators there rarely interact with mortals. Hanley frowned slightly. Are you saying the cultivation sects allow the imperial court of Great Jin to control cultivation resources? Monarch Soul Divergence chuckled. It isn't that they allow it. Unlike the heavenly south, which is divided among many countries and clans, Great Jin has been ruled by a single, powerful imperial court since ancient times. No matter how strong a cultivator may be, they dare not interfere with mortal governance. Doing so would give rival sects and powers a perfect excuse to strike. Over time, the imperial court reached a compromise with the major cultivation forces. If I recall correctly, the agreement states that sects must not pressure or meddle with the mortal court. In return, the court is permitted to hire a small number of wandering cultivators to preserve its authority. Naturally, the imperial family is also allowed to cultivate a limited number of their own practitioners, but the great sects watch them closely to ensure they don't grow unchecked. He continued, in order to acquire cultivation resources and manpower, the great powers secretly forged agreements with the imperial family. Some especially powerful officials are even backed by specific sects to prevent rival forces from gaining an advantage. Under such circumstances, noble clans affiliated with sects emerged. Over time, they accumulated vast mortal holdings and grew accustomed to operating within the mortal world. However, lands that are so carefully preserved almost certainly contain cultivation resources. Such assets are vital to the survival of any noble clan. Hanley stroked his chin, his face filled with amazement. Since these documents are so important, why were they hidden here? He mused. Did the Feng clan master sense impending disaster and place them here as a contingency? That's possible, Monarch Soul Divergence replied indifferently. But it has nothing to do with us. There's no need to dwell on it. Let's head straight for the Feng clan's hidden storage. Perhaps there's a Buddhist technique there that can dissolve your baleful qi. You're right, Senior Hanli said with a smile. He placed the documents into a jade box and stored them away. After confirming his direction, he mounted his flying magic tool and sped toward the Snowmound Mountains. At the same time, deep beneath the Snowmound Mountains, within a subterranean tomb, two figures shrouded in green qi knelt motionless before 3 stone coffins. Suddenly, 2 streaks of green light shot out from one of the coffins and pierced straight into the figures' foreheads. Go, an imposing voice thundered from the central coffin. Kill him and retrieve the treasure. The 2 figures instantly blurred into streaks of green light, circling the chamber once before shooting out of the tomb. I have already obtained the appearance of the one who took the Vajra barrier and handed it to the incarnations. The voice continued. The prince's remnant qi will linger within the barrier for a short time. As long as he does not immediately leave Guaning province, escape will be impossible. Many thanks, Lord Father. A joyful yet stuttering voice came from another coffin. The man in the central coffin snorted. I will overlook this matter once, but do not let it happen again. Yes, next time, it will not. The stutter now carried unmistakable fear. Silence returned to the tomb. Then, after the time it takes to finish a meal, a thunderous bang echoed through the chamber. The lid of the central coffin shot 10 meters into the air, and a slender figure wearing a crown slowly sat up. My king, why are you? A sweet woman's voice drifted from one of the other coffins. His eyes glowed crimson as he replied, the yin-qi veins beneath the earth are about to erupt. Leaving the tomb briefly will not cost me much cultivation. It is a good opportunity to assist General Ji and eliminate some troublesome individuals outside the noble clans. Once I depart, I will activate all the restrictions within the tomb to prevent any outsiders from entering. After a brief hesitation, the woman replied softly, Yes, Your Majesty. Please be careful. Do not worry, my beloved concubine, the man said, nodding. I will return in 2 days. After that, I will not leave again for some time. He rose from the coffin. His figure blurred repeatedly before dissolving into a cloud of grey mist that vanished into the void. Soon silence filled the tomb once more, broken only by a woman's deep, lingering sigh. By the time Han Li caught sight of the snow-mound mountains, dawn had already arrived. Without hesitation, he plunged straight into the mountain range atop his flying magic tool. To avoid unnecessary trouble, he concealed his aura and flew at a low altitude. His spiritual sense extended only a few kilometers, carefully monitoring his surroundings. The Feng clan's hidden storage lay near the heart of the mountains, concealed within a secluded region. After flying for an entire day, Han Li finally descended onto an unremarkable mountain peak. Below him thundered a massive waterfall nearly a kilometer tall. The scene matched the Jade Slip's description, perfectly easing his concerns. Gazing at the surging mist and cascading white water, Han Li descended and formed an incantation seal. Raising both hands, he released 2 streaks of azure light into the waterfall. A series of muffled rumbles echoed forth. Moments later, a 3-meter-wide opening appeared within the torrent. Han Li flew inside without hesitation, and the hole sealed itself behind him. What Han Li did not know was that at the very instant he entered the cave, 2 green silhouettes were racing toward him from 500 kilometers away. Their eyes burned with rage as they bared pitch-black fangs, releasing low, guttural snarls reminiscent of a dreadful 2-headed beast. Yet those 2 silhouettes remained unaware that several kilometers behind them, 2 hidden figures were silently observing their pursuit, whispering to one another with lowered heads and cold expressions. "How is it?" One of the 2 figures sent a voice transmission to the other, his tone sharp and edged with urgency. "Are you confident you can restrain Devil Glorious Blaze's incarnations? If they manage to escape, we'll end up alerting them all." The other figure snorted coldly. His voice was deep and gloomy as it replied, "King Glorious Blaze's so-called incarnations are nothing more than products of soul-mending techniques forcefully refined into obedient puppets. Their intelligence has been severely diminished. Though they possess nascent soul cultivation, they are easily dealt with by cultivators of the same level. Taking them on together will pose no difficulty. Now that the old devil has released his incarnations one by one, it works greatly to our advantage. Killing them is equivalent to severing his limbs." "Brother Heavenwind speaks wisely," the sharp voice replied. "Still, I find myself curious about the person those incarnations are chasing. To make the old devil divert his forces from the tomb at such a critical moment and lose sight of his true objective, this individual must be no ordinary figure." "Whoever it is, they have no bearing on our plans," Heavenwind replied flatly. "Once King Glorious Blaze leaves his tomb, his cultivation will drop significantly. This opportunity is exceedingly rare. That old devil is far too cunning. He never leaves his tomb for even a moment under normal circumstances. If not for the trap I laid, we might never have had such a chance. After all, while within his tomb, his strength is no weaker than that of a late nascent soul cultivator." The sharp voice let out a sinister chuckle. "If old devil Glorious Blaze were to learn that we've already leaked this plan to the other 2 noble clans, I wonder what expression he'd wear. They've already invited their sect backers and are simply waiting for him to take the bait. And even if he somehow escapes them through sheer luck, we'll be waiting outside his tomb. There will be no path left for him to flee." "Precisely," Heavenwind replied, his voice growing heated with greed. "We brothers have schemed for over 10 years for this very moment. Ever since the trap was laid, we've remained outside, closely observing his every move, waiting for the right opportunity. Once he is gone, his beloved concubine and his child will be helpless against the 3 of us. The countless treasures he has accumulated over the years and the thousands of corpse soldiers within the tomb will all be ours. And I've heard that his heavenly corpse body is nearing completion. Given his cautious nature, the heavenly corpse pearl required for it must be hidden somewhere inside the tomb. If we can locate it and purge it of his soul, we can use the body to cultivate body hardening and strengthening techniques. It is an ideal treasure for such cultivation." "Heh." The sharp voice laughed. My cultivation path doesn't emphasize body refinement, so I have no interest in the heavenly corpse pearl. All I want are those thousands of corpse soldiers. With them, I could establish a powerful faction without ever leaving seclusion." Hearing this, Heaven Wind laughed excitedly. But I already know what fellow Taoist Yin would say. He would only want the corpse spirit arts so he could control those corpse soldiers with ease. Otherwise, he'd have to come begging us for help. "That sounds about right," the sharp voice replied. He then glanced toward the distant green silhouettes and said, "It's time to act. Since Brother Wild Sand is already following the old devil closely, there shouldn't be any issues. We should move before anything unexpected occurs. Let's eliminate the old devil's incarnations first, then return to the tomb and lie in ambush. If he makes it back, the situation will turn unfavorable." "Yes, the timing is right," Heaven Wind said after a brief pause. "The old devil should have already left the snow-mound mountains. Let us depart." At that very moment, the two green incarnations ahead let out furious howls. Suddenly, they sensed astonishing fluctuations of spiritual chi surging from behind them and instinctively turned to look. What greeted them was a vast sea of black mist, accompanied by a terrifying windstorm, filling the sky as it bore down upon them as though intent on swallowing them whole. "Oh!" At this time, Han Li stood before a stone door hidden behind the waterfall, utterly unaware that a grave danger had been resolved by another party without his involvement. Had he encountered the two incarnations himself, he could have dealt with them easily, but doing so would have consumed his final chance to lift the Soluk seal. His gaze was fixed upon a protruding section at the corner of the stone door, where a hole roughly an inch wide was embedded. Reaching into his storage pouch, Han Li retrieved a glittering silver key. With a flick of his finger, he sent it shooting into the hole in a streak of silver light. The key slid in smoothly, leaving half of its length exposed. A faint smile appeared on Han Li's face. He extended a finger and released a streak of azure light toward the key. Slowly, the key rotated half a turn. The pale stone gate shimmered with a layer of white radiance, trembling faintly before the doors gradually parted, revealing an opening just wide enough for a person to pass through. Han Li glanced at the opening and calmly stepped inside. After advancing roughly 30 meters, a transportation formation 3 meters in diameter appeared before him. 8 grooves surrounded the formation, all of them completely empty. Seeing this, Han Li let out a soft chuckle. Without sufficient knowledge of formations, one might place spirit stones into all 8 grooves, only to have the spatial power tear them apart instantly. The person who designed this hidden storage was indeed shrewd. He approached the formation, his eyes flickering thoughtfully. With a shake of his sleeve, 5 low-grade spirit stones flew into 5 separate grooves. He then struck the formation with a spell seal, causing it to emit a low hum. Given Han Li's attainments in formations, he quickly discerned that there was nothing amiss. Without hesitation, he stepped into the center of the formation. White light engulfed him, and his figure vanished. The teleportation distance was short. Thanks to his powerful spiritual sense, he felt little discomfort. In a flash of white light, he reappeared within a spacious hall. He swept his gaze across the surroundings, taking everything in at once. The hall spanned roughly 60 meters in length and was constructed entirely of finely cut warmstone. Its contents were sparse: 2 rows of green wooden shelves and 3 silver chests, each about 3 meters long. To Han Li's surprise, the Feng clan's secret cave was remarkably small. The shelves were crafted from precious wood. Despite their age, their color remained unchanged, and a faint fragrance still lingered around them. More than 30 magic tools were arranged neatly upon one of the shelves, all of them mid-grade or higher. Several unfamiliar magic treasures were mixed among them, standing out conspicuously. The other shelf was densely packed with over 100 jade slips. Han Li did not spare the magic tools or silver chests a second glance. Instead, he walked directly to the jade slips. Casually selecting one, he swept his spiritual sense through it. Thanks to his formidable spiritual sense, he examined all of the jade slips in the time it took to finish a meal. To his surprise, none of them contained Buddhist techniques. Could Feng Yue have lied? Han Li shook his head, dismissing the thought. He had personally used the Dream Tier technique. Deception was impossible. After a moment's reflection, his gaze shifted to the 3 silver chests. After pondering briefly, he waved his sleeve, opening all 3. One chest was filled with several hundred mid-grade spirit stones. Another contained jade boxes of varying sizes. A sweep of his spiritual sense revealed rare materials and medicinal pills within roughly equal in value to the chest of spirit stones. Failing to find what he sought, Han Li's expression darkened slightly. Opening the final chest, he found an assortment of talismans glowing faintly. Disappointment flickered across his face, yet he still swept his spiritual sense through the contents carefully. Suddenly his expression shifted. With a flick of his hand, an object beneath the talismans flew into his grasp. It was a scarlet wooden box, half a foot long, sealed with a faint yellow talisman. Buddhist talismanic characters were engraved across its surface. Glancing at the talisman, Han Li recognized it as a common qi-concealing talisman. He tore it off without hesitation and opened the box. 7-colored light burst forth. At its center lay a milky white pearl, no larger than a thumb. A crystal relic. Han Li exclaimed in delight. The box contained more than just the relic. There were also 2 Buddhist magic tools, a Dharma wheel and a bracelet of golden prayer beads, both radiating pure, faith-based spiritual light. Beneath them lay a plain yellow jade slip. Though unremarkable in appearance, the jade slip immediately seized Han Li's attention. With a sweep of his hand, he picked it up and impatiently plunged his spiritual sense into it. That's all for today's content. See you in the next part. Support me by becoming a member. It will give me more motivation. Thank you so much.